Hello, everyone. We'll give people maybe a couple of more minutes to come in. Good evening, everyone. So welcome to the last part of our three-part series of preparing for, grad school applications. So we started off with applying to grad school 101, and then we went over your personal statement and your diversity statement. And today, we're going to talk about, Janice and I are going to talk about preparing for your grad school interview. Please feel free to type in the chat or in the Q&A any questions that may come up. We'll have plenty of time for question today. So to start, first, congratulations. You should really applaud yourself on having been invited to interview for a graduate school program. I know a lot of you are in the final stages of your application prep right now. But once those applications are submitted in November or December, the invites will come within some will come within a week and some will come within a month of each other. So to help you kind of prepare for that eventual process, we are just going to go over some basics of preparing for that interview today. So when you get an interview, it signals a lot that the admissions committee have found your application to be impressive. Now you just need to wow them during your interview. However, whether there will be an interview or not will vary by school and by discipline. During COVID, in the beginning of COVID, a lot of the interviews were in person, were virtual. And now there are some programs that have transitioned to in-person. Some has maintained the virtual interview process. So being virtual versus in-person is will vary depending on the program that you apply to. And you might get a variety of programs. So some interviews will be in person, some will be hybrid for you, or even virtual for you. And then that not all schools and programs will interview, especially, for example, if you're applying to master's programs. So master programs tend to not require an interview. So how do you begin to prepare for your interview process? So to begin, you just first think about what the purpose of the grad school interview is and come prepared. For a graduate school interview, think about what faculty want. So there will be faculty who will be interviewing you. The purpose of the program and from the faculty perspective is to narrow down the applicant pool. So most programs will only interview a subset. So for example, if a program is trying to get a cohort of 10 students, they'll probably interview 20 students, for example, from everyone who applied. From the program and faculty perspective, they're trying to decide who to admit into the program, and as well share more information about the whole application process, as well as the department and the program itself, what it's like to be a graduate student in that program. And from the faculty perspective, they're also trying to make the program sounds more intriguing, as well as try to share information that will help you make your decision in terms of which grad school and which program to matriculate into. But the more important perspective is yours. So from your perspective, utilize the grad school interview as an opportunity to learn more about the program. This is a great opportunity to meet faculty and students during your interview, and essentially be able to have both one-on-one and small group settings to talk to faculty and students. As for some students, like this is like how often some of these faculty may be like Nobel laureates, for example. And so it's a great opportunity for you to meet them, talk to them, ask anything, essentially. There's usually no agenda on these interviews. For you as well, to determine in terms of learning more about the program, determine if the program is a good fit for you, if you get along with the students, if you get along with the faculty. And then decide if you want to attend the institution itself. Learn more about the resources that's available, the vibe there, see if it fits. But also the grad school interview is a great opportunity to impress the admissions committee. So this is your opportunity to share a little bit about yourself beyond what you wrote in your application. Because as everyone have known, since you're at the end of that process, there's such limited space for you to share about yourself. And of course, by attending these interviews, you're signaling that you're serious about attending the program. When you're in the interviews, show interest, be present 110% all the time, and just make sure you have your A game. Alan asks, do they usually let you know which professors you will be interviewing with before the interview? This will vary program by program, but I can answer for STEM. Most STEM field will give you a schedule of who you'll be meeting with in terms of professor and faculty before your interview. And so you have an opportunity to research those faculty and learn more about their lab, their research prior to the interview. I would say that sometimes, based on the interviews that I've heard about, as well as my own interview, the topic of the interviews will vary. Some faculty would like to talk about research, other faculty would like to talk about just random non-research related stuff.
I would say for smaller departments, maybe some smaller departments in STEM as well as social studies or social sciences and humanities. It also really does depend. Some departments like to have kind of a rotating group of faculty interview you, and you will get this schedule of who to expect. Other departments will go by subfield or sub-faculty. So for example, if you are, say, applying for a modern European history graduate school program, then the faculty in modern European history will interview you. This may or may not include the supervisors or potential primary advisors that you identified in your application. Some smaller departments will usually do the director of graduate studies as well as the chair, and this may or may not be overlap with your supervisor, but this is usually in terms of small departments, we're talking like, less than 10 faculty in the department.
Yeah, and then if there is any faculty that you would like to chat with about the research, or anything like that, I would suggest to reach out to, it's usually the administrative staff that's scheduling, reach out to them and ask if there's downtime or informal time that you can, try to schedule with these faculty that you're interested in outside of the formal interview structure. I've heard of people who've met with faculty like the day before or the day after the interview, just informally to learn more about the program. Especially if it's in person, because you're traveling there. So just utilize the time that you're present as much as possible so you can understand more about the program. So once you get there, so interview format will vary so drastically between programs, between department, and even across years as well. Programs usually change, but generally, for each interview, it's usually 20 minutes to an hour. When you sit down one-on-one with a faculty, there will be a lot of social events and downtown incorporated into the schedule with students, with faculty. Sometimes a department would incorporate interviews into their departmental research in progress or happy hour so that you can, meet a bunch of the whole department in general and kind of get an idea of what a department function looks like. Your interviewers are usually faculty members, especially in STEM, but they could be alumni of the program or students of the program or a panel of faculty. I would say that even though, for example, students, postdocs may not be interviewing you during, even when they're not interviewing you, some programs will seek feedback from the students and the postdocs in terms of thinking about who they end up admitting. So I would just have your A game on the whole time. But also be super friendly. And then location-wise, Zoom or in person. If it's in person, generally it's in the faculty's office. So you go to the office, or it could be in a conference room, depending. I know there's a lot of technical difficulty that can arise from Zoom. If you're seeing that you have a lot of Zoom interviews and your office space or your room, the lighting is off or something like that, then essentially some people have bought a ring light to help with the lighting. Some people have reserved rooms on campus so you have access. If people have internet connectivity issue, but generally programs are generally understanding if there's connectivity issue, but no one likes it when these things happens. And example schedules usually start off with a welcome, some icebreakers, questions about you, about your research, what you're interested in, chance for you to ask questions. So come into this interview with a couple of questions prepared. And oftentimes, sometimes you'll run late or things like that, but kind of summarizing up your interview. Basically, you interview with that faculty or that student or alumni, etc. Okay, so preparing is a lot. So essentially, if you are able to, most programs will send your schedule ahead of time, but before the interview, always make sure that you prepare for the interview itself. What does preparation involve? So preparation, first of all, involve knowing yourself, the career field that you're applying into, that you want to go into, the program, and the institution. So, refresh yourself on things that you have been doing research on in terms of writing your personal and your statement of purpose, about why you want to attend that program, and things like that. Don't mix institutions with one another. That's really doesn't show that you're prepared. Know your application. So oftentimes you would just refresh on your personal statement, skim it again before you interview so that you know what you've shared in your personal statement. anything you share in your application is fair game for interviewers to bring up and ask. And then in terms of other preparation is think of ways that you can show that you're a great match for the program. So reinforcing your strength and addressing your weaknesses, using your personal statement as a base. So for example, be prepared to answer questions if people are gonna, if your GPA is particularly low, be prepared to have an answer to those questions. If you mention any challenges or roadblock in your personal statement, be prepared to talk about that and elaborate on it as well. And then kind of think about what the program looks like and then match yourself to that program in terms of like what are your skills and your strength that you have built throughout the years in undergrad, or you've taken industry or work years as well as post-bac years, showing how you are a great match for the program in general. Most importantly, really know your research interests and how that align with the research interests of the program you're interviewing for. So kind of really knowing your research background. Some faculty will different faculty will have different quizzing depth in terms of asking about your research, your research background. Some faculty will specifically ask some challenging questions to kind of get how you think about and troubleshoot on the spot. But generally, faculty is just interested in what you've done and what you're interested in doing, especially. Anticipate any questions about anything on your application and prepare to answer. So sometimes people will print out the application materials, read it again, find any weaknesses, things like that. You can practice mock interviews with your advisor, your grad student, a postdoc, mentors, family and friends, Janice or I, via an appointment. Our appointments are generally 30 minutes, so it's a perfect interview, mock interview practice time. And then when you, in terms of other preparation, is to prepare a couple of questions to ask your interviewers, be it about the research, it could be about the program. We'll have a list of potential questions later on, but thinking about like questions that don't constrain yourself to ask questions that quote unquote you're expected to ask questions that will be helpful for you in terms of learning more about the program. And what would be helpful for you in terms of choosing a program in the future. But of course, in terms of preparation, it's good to come, start your interview prepared, get enough sleep the night before. Sometimes with traveling, especially across the country, it might be difficult, but people understand. Eat a good meal, arrive early, make sure you're not late to anything. Just set a bunch of alarms clock if you tend to sleep in. And then Alan asked, if in person, do they pay for a trip, or is that your responsibility? For STEM programs, generally it is paid, includes your flight, your meals, and everything. So in terms of that process, you don't have to worry about the financial aspect of interviewing. I'm not sure what
For humanities and social sciences, I will say that most of our interviews now take place virtually. Yeah, I haven't really heard of people flying out. Obviously, it's a different situation for like after if you get admission, like those visit days, and those are definitely paid for. But I think in the interview process since COVID, things have shifted mostly virtual.
yeah. Okay, so the first step to the whole preparing for your graduate school interview is to know yourself. Graduate school is a big investment on your part in terms of time, money. It's also an investment for the program in terms of your stipend, etc. And so it's essential that you choose the right program that matches your career goals. So you've already started doing this in designing which graduate program to apply to. And now it's time to narrow that down a bit. And think about what attracted you to the field you're applying into specifically. What attracted you to the program and the school? So in terms of thinking about why you applied to the program and the school, what was particularly attractive to it that excite you? What are your professional goals? And how will the program help you achieve these goals in general? Are there professional development certificate activities? Or is there, if you're interested in industry, is there great support for doing internships during graduate school, for example? What experience have you had that set you apart from other applicants? So thinking about things that are unique and match that to the activities that you'll be doing in graduate school. So there are some applicants who have, enjoyed mentoring and teaching others in their undergrad years. And so if teaching and mentoring is a passion of yours, highlight it as well. And because, as a graduate student, you'll be teaching and mentoring others as well. And then of course, finally, what are you hoping to gain from your graduate education? Be it professional goals, including your career, etc., but also like interpersonal and personal goals in terms of your personal development as an individual. Thinking about all of this would help you prepare in terms of thinking about what questions to ask when you're interviewing, as well as narrowing down what programs you'll be more likely to attend when you get that acceptance offer.
Okay, so another aspect of the interview will definitely be about future-oriented goals as well as goals for within the program. And this is something that I think if you've gone through the whole process of writing a statement of purpose, as well as any other supplementary materials for your applications, you already have an answer for, and you've already done research in order to answer these kinds of questions. So when preparing for the interview, as Meetian said already, it's a really great idea to review all those notes, review those bookmark tabs, review your personal statement, and especially review the research that you've done when you were crafting your personal statement and statement of purpose. This is why I actually tell a lot of the students that I meet, and this is something I did personally. It's a great idea to keep like a notebook, a journal, or a kind of personal archive in whatever form or medium you want, in order to have those notes from when you were writing the statement of purpose so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes time to prepare for the interview. That being said, departments do change. You might be interviewing in a new semester where there are new events, hires, new things happening. So it's a good idea to take a quick look on the website and see if anything's changed. Or anything's updated since the last time you checked, around this time of the year. It's also a good idea, I think, to make sure that you know your audience, and to adapt, especially if and when you get the names of the people who you'll be speaking to, if they weren't faculty members who you explicitly named in your statement of purpose as potential research supervisors or primary advisors, then it would be a good chance to just read their bio, maybe take a quick look at their CV, research interests, to make sure that you also are, speaking somewhat on the same level as they are. Um, yeah. Um, Again, I think it's just a really good idea to keep track of what you're researching, just because this also will be really handy to kind of shape the questions that you might want to ask. So, for example, if the distinguishing characteristics of the program, include also, as Mitian just mentioned, like career goals. And if there's anything missing on the website, or anything that wasn't clear on the website, then this would be a great chance to ask follow-up questions, showing on the one hand that you did do your homework and you do know, and have demonstrated a clear demonstrated interest, based on the specifics of the program that you've seen. Um, on the other hand, it can be something, to show it more of these questions can be an opportunity to show more of, what you will bring to the program and what you hope to get out of, your grad school experience. Okay, so during the interview, if you think back to like some of the college interviews or maybe some of the internship interviews, all those best practices still apply for um, graduate school interviews, whether it is in person or on Zoom and or on Zoom. Um, I'm not going to go through all the details because I think these are pretty self-explanatory. However, just to expand on that, the last couple points, if you have anything that's changed since, like for example, if you have, and this is either positive or negative changes, like if you think that your research has shifted in a certain direction, or if, like, say, you have a new article that's published, or you've changed jobs in the meantime. These are places to kind of let that committee know. And it's always a good thing to kind of contextualize that in the larger plan and the big picture of, is this going to change how you approach your grad school goals? Are your grad school goals still pretty much the same as before? Things like that. Um, this is also, as Mitian mentioned earlier, a chance to you don't I wouldn't say necessarily like prepare for the worst, but just prepare for, any follow questions that your interviewers might have about your application. So it is a good idea actually to bring paper copies, and just have paper copies if you're on Zoom next to you, so that you don't need to like open up your computer or like flip through tabs. And I mean paper copies of your statement of purpose as well as your resume. Sometimes your interviews will actually have this in front of them, so it's good to just come prepared on that front. I will also say that during the interview, some if the interview goes more colloquial and they actually want to have like a conversation about the research, like that is also totally fine, and you can totally geek out, and that's definitely, what you should do, and what they want you to do, if the conversation does go that way. Um, And again, just basic practices. This is all some things that you can practice, whether that's, during office hours with a professor, whether that's, if you're in like a non-academic job, like these are probably things that you're already doing in terms of meetings, but definitely something that you can reach out to OCS to practice. And I would say that in terms of interviews, not just us, but any of the OCS staff will have experience practicing with interviews and just kind of checking, how you would answer certain questions, how you sound over Zoom, outfits even. I think we've gotten a whole range of questions related to rehearsing the interview, even if it's, grabbing like a family member or a friend over Zoom or, in person, and asking them to just read through the list of potential questions that we will show you in just a moment. It's a good idea to, yeah, have a dry run or do some kind of rehearsal, even just for your own psychological comfort. And feel free to take a screenshot of this. This is being recorded, so this will also go up on the OCS page. These are some commonly asked questions that are more general, again, relevant to any kind of grad program, whether it's STEM, social science, humanities, or arts. And then you also should be prepared to answer some field-specific questions. So this would be a good time to, these are some field-specific questions. Some are more relevant than others. Like, for example, what do you think about XYZ insert current event? That probably would be more relevant for, say, like a public policy program or a like social science, humanities oriented program, more so than maybe some STEM, but you also um, would definitely they would shape these questions based on your application. Like, for example, like if I were studying like ancient Roman history, I probably wouldn't be asked about recent Supreme Court decisions in my interview, things like that. Um, and it's, again, I think also something to prepare along with these questions would be a short elevator pitch for your proposed dissertation project and or your intellectual biography. So think like, index card sized like piece of writing, 1 to 2 minutes. They might ask you, tell me about yourself or tell me about your proposed project. And even if they read your statement of purpose, which they all will have done, this is a chance for you to state things in your own words. Metian, anything to add for commonly asked questions?
Yeah, I would say, in addition to this, any scientific aspect of your, if you have a research statement or in your CV, any papers that you published, is fair game as well. So I would also like spend some time just if you publish a paper like 3 years ago, and you're middle author as like, a freshman or sophomore in undergrad, really understanding the science behind it, because sometimes it might be just be the expertise in the field, and they will be interested in learning more.
Yeah, same goes for humanities, social sciences. Like, I have seen students and also myself get questions about like any piece, any paper, any project that you mention on your resume, and any project that you think also your recommenders might have mentioned. That's all fair game. I was asked about a paper that I wrote junior year that I didn't really revisit, and I kind of had to spitball like on the spot. So it's a good idea to just review what you've written. Also for things like history, literature, like you're not expected to, pull quotes out of thin air, but get your dates straight, get the names of the people that you're working on straight, make sure titles are in order. So you're not just saying that book or that film by, I think, that director. Those tiny details can definitely make a difference. And after the interview, again, this is kind of standard aftercare for any sort of professional interview, but definitely it's nice to send a thank you follow-up to any of the interviewers, even if they were over Zoom, and also anybody who might have hosted you during your visit. This includes department registrars and secretaries that you might have been in contact to arrange the logistics of your visit. And then basically you just need to relax, knowing that you have done all you can to craft and present a strong application. All schools usually should get back to you by mid-March, but it again really depends on the program. Some programs are much quicker. Some programs actually will tell you on the spot, like that they wanted, that interview was a formality and now you're in. But usually there is a 2 to 3 week turnover at least. And then comes the fun part of deciding, which schools to go to, because hopefully you'll have many great options. And this also will be a chance to revisit schools before you make your final decision. And that structure will vary by department, by school, by program. So we are here definitely to help. You can make appointments to discuss preparations or mock interviews. And as I said, like it not just with us, but really anybody on the OCS team, like if because I know that our appointments are very quickly booking up as the admissions deadlines gets closer. But I would say with interviews, this is something that a lot of us at OCS can help you with.
Yeah. And then Ellen asks, are there any documents out there that can give examples, responses to some of these questions? Um, I would say that if you Google, not that I can think of it, yeah, but if you Google graduate school interview questions and answers, there will be some example. But I'd say in general, we'll go back to the questions slides. Um, the best answer that I've heard are generally catered to you and your specific interests and challenges. So for example, the question about what challenges do you think you might face in graduate program, that is actually a great question in terms of like thinking about your strengths and your weaknesses and kind of situating that. One of the challenges, of course, like you can say resilience or grit, and kind of talking, following up on that and how you demonstrate resilience and grit in previously. So anything about weaknesses, I always frame it in terms of growth and strength. But these are things that could you could workshop during your mock interviews, and things like that.
But we'll just leave the floor open for any other questions. You can type them in the Q&A box if you have them. Well, I think if there are no questions currently, we can slowly wrap things up. This recording again will be available. Feel free also just to take a last minute screenshot of this slide of commonly asked questions. And once again, Mitian, myself, and all of us at OCS are here to help you with any questions regarding graduate applications as well as interviews. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you over in Zoom and one-on-one meetings. And in the meantime, the very best of luck with graduate applications and the second half of the semester. Good. Nice, short, sweet.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck with this week. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye, James. Bye,
Bye.
Reed. Take care.